Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about what makes a great adventure game, well, great. We're going to break down the core principles, using Ernest Adams's foundational work as our guide to really get at what separates a timeless classic from a frustrating mess.
And you really can't start this conversation without mentioning the absolute gold standard, the insult sword fighting in The Secret of Monkey Island. Think about it. It's a perfect puzzle. It's clever, it's hilarious, and it fits the world perfectly. It wasn't just an obstacle to overcome, it was pure, memorable fun.
So, here's our game plan. We're starting with the heart and soul of it all, the puzzle. Then we'll get into what not to do, the 7 deadly sins of design. After that, we'll dive into the real nuts and bolts, like how you move, how you interact with the world, and yeah, how you manage that all-important inventory.
Alright, so at their core, adventure games are all about puzzles. But, there's a razor-thin line between a challenge that makes you feel like a genius and one that just feels like a complete waste of time. Getting that balance right is pretty much everything.
Okay, now let's get into the juicy stuff, the big no-nos. These are the design traps that can absolutely ruin a player's experience, the kind of things that make you want to throw your mouse right through the monitor. First up is the trial and error puzzle. This is basically like being given a combination lock, but nobody tells you the numbers. It's not problem solving, it's just boring, repetitive work until you stumble on the solution. No fun at all. And here's a classic example. In the game Infidel, you had to arrange 4 statues, 24 possible combinations, and absolutely 0 hints. You're not being clever here, you're just being patient. The game isn't testing your brain, it's testing your tolerance for boredom. Next up, we have what gamers often call moon logic. These are puzzles where the solution is so out there, so completely irrational that it just feels random. It breaks your trust in the game's world because the rules suddenly stop making sense. And I mean, these examples say it all, right? Sharpen the headphones with the banana. It's not clever surrealism, it's just plain weird for the sake of being weird. There's no internal logic, so there's nothing for the player to actually figure out.
This next one was a huge pain in a lot of older games. Illogical spaces. You go north to get to the kitchen, but when you go south from the kitchen, you end up in the garden? What? It stops being about exploration and starts being about you having to draw a map just to not get lost.
Now, this sin is all about fairness. It's when a puzzle needs you to know something from the real world, something that's not even in the game. It's basically punishing the player for not having seen a specific movie or not knowing a particular piece of trivia. That's not a puzzle, it's a pop quiz. Oh, the infamous pixel hunt. We've all been there, scouring every inch of the screen, clicking frantically, because the one thing you need is a tiny, nearly invisible speck hidden in the background art. It's a cheap and artificial way to make the game harder.
And the source text is brutally honest about it, calling it exactly what it is: lazy design. And that hits the nail on the head. It adds difficulty, sure, but it adds 0 entertainment value. It's just frustrating. Okay, next sin, too many backward puzzles. This is when you pick up a key and then hours later you finally find the door it opens. A couple of these are okay, but when a whole game is built like this, it just encourages you to pick up everything that isn't nailed down, leaving you with a hopelessly cluttered inventory. And the final sin, the FedEx puzzle. This is where the game turns you into an errand boy. All you're doing is picking something up from one place and taking it to another. There's no clever thinking involved. A game full of these fetch quests gets really dull really fast. So, we know what to avoid, but what about the things great designers do? Well, a huge principle is this idea of hiding the computer. The best games make you forget you're even using one. They pull you so deep into the world that the technology just fades away. The real magic trick here is to make everything feel natural. The interface should be so clean and the commands so intuitive that the player isn't thinking about menus or buttons, they're just living in the story. All right, let's get into the mechanics of just moving around. How does the player navigate the world? It really comes down to 2 main approaches, the classic point and click or more modern direct control.
And you can see the trade-offs right here. Point and click is indirect. You're more like a director telling an actor where to go. It's great for slower, more thoughtful games. Direct control feels more immediate, like you're driving a car. You are the character. That's why it's the go-to for action adventures. Okay, so you can move, but how do you actually do stuff? This is one of the biggest problems designers have had to solve over the years. How does the player actually interact with objects to solve the puzzles?
And this right here, this is the classic nightmare from old text adventures, the guess the verb problem. You know what you want to do, but you have to guess the exact word the programmer was thinking of. Is it break, smash, hit? Oh, it was kick. It's not a puzzle, it's a syntax test.
So, to fix that in graphical games, designers developed better ways to show you what you can even interact with. You went from annoying hunt-and-click systems to more elegant solutions, like having objects light up when your cursor is over them. The goal is always to guide the player without breaking that precious immersion.
And finally, we have to talk about that magical bottomless pocket, the inventory. It's a staple of the genre, but how it's designed can make it either a super useful tool or a clunky, frustrating mess.
And really, the golden rule is just to make it frictionless. If checking your items means a giant menu pops up and covers the whole beautiful game world, it yanks you right out of the experience. It needs to be fast, simple, and feel like a natural part of the game.
So that's the playbook. These are the core ideas that separate the legendary games from the ones we'd rather forget. Now, think about it. Pick a game you absolutely adore and one that drove you crazy. How do they stack up against these rules? I'll bet the answers are right here. It all comes down to clever puzzles, an invisible interface, and ultimately, a deep respect for you, the player.